So today we're going to be making Jen Stark inspired kindness hearts. It's a very simple process. Jen Stark is known for doing very large scale drip paintings. So I'm going to start out, make a heart, and it doesn't have to be perfect. It can be done however you want. And then you want to pick out 5 or 6 colors, and you can use markers, crayons, colored pencils, whatever you choose. So you make a drippy, wavy kind of line, and then I'm going to trace around the edge there, and then I'll fill in this entire section. The next step would be, after it's filled in, to work on another area right below it. Okay, so as you can see, I colored in the red section. Now I'm going to move on to my orange. Now when you do the second section, you can make your lines longer or more wiggly. It's up to you. Now be careful. If you are using markers, you've got to be careful because sometimes the marker is still a little bit damp and if you put your hand on it, you end up with marker on the side of your hand. When you press it on the paper, you'll end up with marker prints all over. Okay, so I'm going to color this section in, and we'll... Okay, so now you can see I finished the orange section, and I'm going to continue with my yellow. Now, when you're doing markers especially, you have to be really careful, especially with light colors like the yellow, because you don't want, if you're using markers and it's yellow, you don't want to smear the yellow and the color you're touching right up against, because it's very light, and if you don't want to ruin your markers, you want to be really, really careful, okay? So I'm going to go ahead, fill in my yellow. Okay, so now I finished the yellow and I'm moving on to the green, and by now I'm sure you've noticed that I am following the color wheel or the rainbow. And as you know, the rainbow can be followed by using the acronym Roy G. Biv: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, and violet. Okay, so I'm going to fill that in and... Okay, so now I'm moving on to my blue, and then I'm just about finished. So after I finish getting everything colored in, we're going to do what's called a radial line for the background. Now a radial line is a line that basically shoots out from the center of something. In this case, it's going to be shooting out from the center of the heart. And the easiest thing to compare it to would be the rays of the sun. So when you look at the sun, and not a direct look at the sun, if you're going to look at the sun, you want to do it like when it's like sunset or something like that, or there's a lot of clouds. And if you look at the clouds, you'll see those rays of light, the beams, like kind of shining outward. It looks... Okay, so now I'm going to start adding the radial lines. The easiest way to make sure that you're getting them the right way is I'm going to do towards the corners. Okay, so I'm making 2 lines out towards the corners, and I want it to get a little wider as it goes out to the edges. Okay, then I'll do some to the sides, and I'm going right up, you'll notice, right up against the edge of my heart. Okay, and then the bottom and the top. Okay, so then I have my basic lines, and I'm going to add a couple more in between each one. And then once I have them all sketched in, I'll go ahead and I will start filling in that line. Now, you may or may not have a black crayon, marker, or colored pencil, and that's okay. If you don't have black, you can pick another color, or you can pick two colors. I've had some kids that have actually done it with like two different colors. So I'm going to go ahead and color these in, and I'll be back in a minute. Okay, so now you can see I've filled in all of my black stripes. You have a couple of options here. You can either take a couple of different markers or crayons and then do some like swiggly decorative lines around it, or if you want, you can take your black or whatever color you've used for your lines, and you can just trace around your heart. That'll help create a lot more contrast and really make your heart pop out. And contrast is one of our principles of design. And so in this project, you will have used color, line, pattern, and contrast. So you've got several elements and principles in there, and I hope you enjoyed our Jen Stark inspired kindness hearts. And don't forget, be kind.